automatic. I think we're live. Hey,
All
we're
right.
live. Hello, Tim. How are
Hey,
you?
Kelly. I'm very good. Very good. Indeed, it's been a very busy and very long day, but it's been a good one.
Phew. Phew. It's been a very long one, and we've already had a stint today, this morning. I'm looking around, just waiting to see if, we've got 3 people in. Hopefully that will grow as the minutes go by. I don't know how much of a you and I had a chat earlier, and we said that, well, mainly due to me, I think, we kind of ran out of time earlier today at the Retail Global Amazon
Digital day, yeah.
Digital Day. Sorry, I'm doing 2 things at once. I'm trying to get my slides up as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so we ran out of time, and we had a bit of a chat, and we thought we'd get together and we'd go over a couple of the subjects that we touched on. And I think both of us got messages straight after in regards to verification suspensions about Amazon. And I think we've already half resolved one person's issue.
Yeah.
I believe so too. Let me just bring up those slides.
So these are real issues. I mean, that just struck home to me. Like, we're there talking about it. It's not theory. These are people's livelihoods. These are people's businesses. These are things that they lose sleep over and sweat over. And it seems callous and cold that a huge multinational company can just, something happens in their computer and your business is switched off.
I think both of us know that it's not personal.
No,
I think both of us know that it's not Amazon being the big bad wolf. I think that they could do better in communicating what the problems are. But at the same time, we've got to all understand how many thousands of sellers are signing up to Amazon every day. And how much time they have, how many resources they've got to actually resolve it. We've already got a couple of messages. I think I'll take them now since we haven't started yet.
Sure.
Thank you, Elspeth. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the whole show. Actually, it was amazing. Everybody was great. Mary's saying, I missed your session today, guys. Good to hear you will go through what you touched on. Yes, and there will be a replay as well, Mary.
I
think you have to register, but absolutely go and check out the replays with Retail Global. And hey, we're all looking forward to September, and all crossing our fingers that the borders will have opened. I think they're due to open over the next couple of weeks.
Can't wait.
We're all getting we've all got the finger on the trigger, getting ready to get our tickets and all sorts, and get onto the Gold Coast. We miss each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, absolutely. So and until then, there's a lot more of this to come. I don't think I'm allowed to tell people what the subject is, but there's another one coming next month, and there's a lot of stuff that Retail Global is going to be doing.
We can tell people it's the eBay one. I think we can tell them. They've got the date. They've got the date. They haven't actually announced everything yet, all the full lineup, and they're still in the talking. But look, what I think Retail Global have done is really struck a real chord. Yes, we've all been bunkered down in hibernation for a while, but businesses are going on, lives are going on, and we're trying to make sense of things around us, and we're trying to get on with things as best we can. E-commerce
and online has gone crazy. It's gone nuts. And a lot more people are getting used to this kind of communication anyway. A lot of people who weren't doing it prior to this and now doing more of it. I think this is going to be part of our everyday life.
I think so.
And I don't see anything negative about it. And online sales are going crazy, like
going mad.
We need more information. We need more people. We need more sellers. Amazon needs more sellers in Australia. If anybody's got any kind of product, we've got to get it on Amazon, because the more sellers, the more buyers, the more the more money we all make. All right, so yes, we tried to, in half an hour, talk about quite a few topics under the Creating a Sound Business Risk Management Strategy. Oops, what did I just do? I just clicked on it. We tried to touch on quite a few things. One of the things that we did actually talk about was Amazon suspensions on verification. And we got a whole load of messages after that with people that have been suspended for both the reasons that we actually spoke about. And I left those slides in, and I left your guy here, and this time I changed.
We've all felt like that.
So why is my account suspended? And the suspension that we're talking about, the specific suspensions that we're talking about, straight away, on verification, before verification, after verification, people can't go through that process. Now, if you're watching us and you're in the Amazon Sellers Australia, USA and Global group, please do go into that group. There's a file, go to the units in that group, and there's specific advice and a checklist to go through. But for those of you who are going through this right now, let's talk about the two different types. And do you want to go this time, Tim?
I'll have a crack at it. So I need to add a caveat to this. So those of you who know me know that I worked at eBay for a while. And somebody, as I was leaving eBay, actually called me Mr. eBay. It was sort of a parting gift. Like, you can't leave, you're Mr. eBay. And it was a nice compliment.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a nice compliment. But the world's bigger than just one marketplace, and certainly with the launch of Amazon and Catch and Kogan and Temple and Webster and Zanui and Bunnings and Myer, and
Mr. Integration now.
I'm just me, but the world has changed, and so it's very much a marketplace-rich environment. We won't go into the philosophy about whether buyers actually go and check all the marketplaces or not, but they've all got people buying things on them. And so understanding that, this kind of sounds a bit strange, but I've explained selling on a marketplace before as being a bit like a parasite. Doesn't sound very nice, but if you think about the big whales and the sharks that swim in the ocean, they have these little fish that swim along underneath or on top of them and sort of hitch a ride. That's kind of what a seller's like on Amazon. When you're selling on Amazon or eBay or any of these bigger marketplaces, if they move, you go with it. You don't have a choice. You're stuck there. And the reality is that a lot of sellers, I think, behave as though somehow they got full control over the way that their business is run on the marketplace, and that's not the case. So yeah, going back to the comment you made earlier about these suspensions, why are they happening? Why these things are being automated. And it's actually a really interesting insight. If you've got a business that's on a website as well, let's say you're selling on Amazon and you got your own website, most website systems, most e-commerce website platforms have automated emails that can be sent out at different trigger points. You can certainly set up programs like that. Somebody goes through checkout, they get an email. Have you customized it? Have you looked at the messages in it? Because that's effectively the criticism we're making of Amazon here. It's an automation, but have they looked at the message that's in it? And I've seen some of these messages, and they're so cryptic and so confusing. Maybe they're just trying to be general to cover everything. And that's where half of the problem lies. So you get the message out, you go, I know I've done something wrong. I think I've done something wrong. I'm not quite sure what it is. And then you send a message back to Amazon to say, can you help me? And you don't hear anything for a week, and people just give up. So it's really good that there is a fairly strong community here in Australia in the e-commerce space, particularly around marketplaces where people have had experience doing it themselves, to be able to then go and share that knowledge. And I just love being part of this community, especially the Retail Global community, because all the people that you speak to are happy to share. They want to share their experience. And it's really, really reassuring. And I just love being part of that community. So anyway, it was a little bit of a tangent, but you understand what I'm saying.
We love having you, but no, you're absolutely right. So even if you just call seller support, a lot of people turn around and go, oh, but seller support, they don't understand. They're not getting me any closer to a solution either. We've got to understand that there's different levels of support, and they don't talk to each other.
No.
And the different departments are totally separate to each other. So you can be going around in circles for a month and not get anywhere. And somebody like me who's seen 1,000 accounts in the last 3 years will take a look and say, okay, this is probably it.
What it is.
This is your troubleshooting. Start with this, and then we'll go further into the next step.
Exactly.
But that was the case today. That's how we resolved that one. But so the first thing that happens, and you can touch on this, the first thing that happens when you register your account, you give them your email, you give them your password. The next thing that happens is that you get suspended, the account gets suspended, and it can't sell anything yet. So what's the next step, Tim?
So the next step is just give up, crawl into a hole and curl up and die, because your life is over. Now, look, the reality is, before you start selling on Amazon, you're doing something, okay? It's not the end of the world. There are other marketplaces, but most importantly, there are reasons why it's happening, as we're saying. So up on the screen, you can see there that there's 2 specific issues. The verification issue, I mean, think about this. Before Amazon came to Australia, eBay had a reputation. I'm talking about 10, 15 years ago, not recently, but a long time ago. eBay had a reputation for being a flea market. You know, every man and his dog is on there selling all this stuff, all this junk, all this cheap rubbish coming in from overseas, dodgy people selling things they don't even have, taking your money. Like, that's what happens with online, because you can't actually see people. You can't see who you're buying from. You don't know who you're buying from. And so the marketplaces have to do the right thing and actually try and control that. And so they require verification. If you go and get a PayPal account, they want you to provide verification. They want to see your home address. They want to see it match up with your bank account. They want to look at your, you know, that's what they're all doing. The government's going to do the same when you go and try and get a tax number or an ABN or something like that. So this is nothing unusual, but you need to expect that it's going to happen. So the verification issues are that you've either not verified, you've let it go too long, or you've uploaded documents that didn't meet the requirements. Unfortunately, because Amazon, as with a lot of big companies, is a big company, and as Callie said, you know, not all the departments speak to each other. And to be honest, some of the lower level customer support people that might be reviewing these documents, they're following a cheat sheet. They're not sitting there. They're not being paid to think and to solve the world's problems. They're just told, you do that. When it comes in, stamp it. If it doesn't do it, put it on that pile. That's it. The next person picks it up. They don't know the history. And that's the problem. And that's a problem very common to all corporates. So it's not as though Amazon's trying to make it hard. It's just the nature of a big business. So you've got to make sure that you do your bit by uploading documents that actually do give them the information they want. We had a situation recently. We live in a funny address where the actual street that we live in, that we're technically on, is actually not the entrance to our house. And our house actually enters from another street that comes at the back, but that's not actually our address. And it's very, very difficult trying to explain it to people, because when the postie needs to know where to go to deliver the letter, but the gas man wants to know which your legal address is, because he can't find on the system. I mean, you can see the nightmare I'd have trying to verify myself on Amazon.
Oh,
all right. So these are real life problems. So yeah, make sure that you follow the checklist. And if you're not sure, reach out to Amazon, and don't be afraid to ask for help with them. But obviously, the Facebook group is a really, really great resource to be able to just put that question out there, and you'll get answers back very, very quickly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so I see that we've already got somebody that we're going to have to help with the same thing. It's in UK, so it's exactly the same problem. We're probably not talking about the same checklist, though, Anand. The checklist that I've given you actually refers you to the global team, and unfortunately, they won't be able to help you with the UK.
So one of the things I'm just thinking here, one of the issues here, obviously there are differences between the countries, and it's not just Amazon trying to be different. I mean, the entire Amazon platform in Australia is not the US platform. It's actually the Japanese platform. It's based like, I mean, this sounds really weird, but the actual platforms and software that they use to do these things are pulled from all sorts of different places. The requirements are different. Amazon had to change its user agreement for Australia, especially because we've got different laws here to other countries around the world, and it took them a while to do that because they couldn't understand it. Yeah. So I'm not sure what the requirements are in the UK, but they would have that information on the UK side, I would imagine.
The requirements are the same. The issue is, where do you go once you hit a brick wall? So, Anand, let me go through what we're talking about now. A technical issue on their platform. Okay. A little bit hard to believe. This is what Anand is saying. Let me go through this, and then we'll have a bit of a Q&A right at the end. I'll see if I can come up with something as well. But yes, absolutely. If you can give me a little bit more information, that'll be really good. Keep on putting your questions in the comments, and we'll come back to them in 5 minutes. Let's just go over this info first. So yeah, absolutely. So in the Amazon sellers group, there is a checklist that is pretty specific to the Singapore team, helping you to get to get registered and verified in the USA. If you're selling from Australia. I should have been a little bit more specific with that, but we'll touch on that as well.
Just for my understanding, so the Singapore team is effectively a global team. Is that the idea? And they look after
they're called Amazon Global. The actual department is called Amazon Global. Right. There is going to be a couple of shifts, but COVID actually change things around a bit. Right. Supposedly by next year, all of us that are sellers in Australia from Australia should get account management happening here in Australia, whether we are selling in Australia or overseas, so even for our USA accounts. But that's a long way away now. I don't know whether anything has changed or what. But the global team in Singapore is the one that looks after us when it comes to our accounts in the USA. Right. So this kind of thing is their details are in that unit for anybody that needs to be verified there and has done all the right things but still hasn't been verified and is still suspended. Amazon suspends accounts that are linked to other suspended accounts, and I think you've got a lot more to say about that one. How about you tell us about that?
Yeah, so again, if you consider that trading in a marketplace, you're trading in relative anonymity to a certain extent. You could call yourself ABC Pets and nobody would never clue who you are, and you don't even need to register the business name. Nobody would ever know. And that's the problem, right? So the verification starts to get around that issue. But the other problem is that because it is effectively a platform where anonymity is available to people, or they can sort of hide behind things, and Amazon doesn't really know who they're dealing with. Amazon has to treat, as does eBay in my experience, treat sellers as who they say they are. So if a seller says, my name's Ron, I live here, and I've got an account, and then they go and open, or somebody opens up another account and says, my name's Ron and I live at the same address, they're probably going to say, well, the chances of two Rons living at the same address is pretty low. It's probably the same person. And so they're going to link the accounts together. And so what happens is when they suspend an account they're not actually having a go at the account. They're actually telling the seller that's not on. And if they think that the seller's running multiple accounts, they're going to lock all of them down. So that's what happens. It happens on eBay exactly the same.
We're now allowed to have multiple accounts. This
you
is
can
very,
have multiple
very
accounts.
recent.
Yeah, no, I
we
understand
can
that.
have them now.
Yeah.
They do need to be. We don't need Amazon's permission anymore. That's the new thing that's changed.
Yeah.
But they do have to be distinct accounts with distinct email addresses, phone numbers, etc., etc. And they can't be selling the same products. What you can't have is one account functioning that is related to another account and that other account being suspended. This one will get suspended as well. So if there's a suspended account anywhere that is in any way related to yours, and a lot of the issues that I've seen just lately have been in regards to multiple people, the same person creating an account for somebody else, uploading their verification documents, whether it's a passport or anything else, under a computer, and that computer having had under the same IP address,
somebody else's
with the same address even. So created another account that's been suspended. And a lot of the time it's got to do with even VA. So to the best of my knowledge, there are VAs out there that haven't got much experience, and what they've done is, instead of creating user permissions for their customers, or telling their customers, giving them instructions on how to give them user permissions, and what they've done is they've gone out and created their accounts for them, and having had multiple accounts created, the minute they open up a new account and that account gets suspended, every other account that they're operating from their computer gets suspended at the same time. So that's a lot of the problem. Now,
we had another specific example of that, and I don't know if this comes up on Amazon. Under eBay policy, you're not allowed to transfer an account or sell an account from one person to another. I assume it's the same on Amazon. And so what we've had, very similar.
Yes.
Yep.
Very, very similar. Yes.
Yeah.
In your case, I think in eBay's case, sorry. Sorry.
I don't work there anymore.
I do associate you with eBay too much. But in eBay's case, I think that there's a process. You can still
you can still transfer it, but it's got to be a part of a sale of a business. But no, what I was going to refer to was I've come across cases there where somebody has legitimately bought a business. That sale of that business was, and that business included an eBay account or an eBay business, right? That sale or that transaction was not actually reported back to eBay and was not therefore approved by eBay, therefore was not known about by eBay. And so the account was still linked because that account was still created by the person that sold the business, who also created another account, sold another business to somebody else, all perfectly legitimate, but eBay never knew about it. So the third party that bought another business, did something wrong, got suspended. So did the person that sold it. And the other lady that bought the other business, they all got suspended all at the same time, and none of them knew what was going on. And the sad thing there is, of course, the poor lady that had bought the business, in good faith and paid money for it and all that, literally lost her sole source of income for about 2 to 3 months while eBay tried to sort it out. And the problem is, in that case, and this again is a perspective thing, this is not eBay or a marketplace or Amazon being unfair. They've got a process they have to go through legally. They can't just say, oh, you said it's Peter's account, now it's Julie's account today. No, it doesn't work that way. They need to see the documents to make sure it's right, because money's involved. That's the problem, that they're answerable under Australian and international law for money. If it looks like there's money laundering going on or things like that, that it's just not, they don't want that kind of smoke coming out of their marketplace. That's not a good look. Yeah.
Very, very similar. Very, very, very similar thing goes on with Amazon, whereby you do need to notify them about the sale of a business. Yep. Quite often, you don't need to sell a seller's account on Amazon. because especially if you're a private label seller, because ownership, all you need to transfer is brand registry rights.
Right. Okay.
Because if you're a private label seller, then essentially what you're selling is the ASIN. The ASIN still remains in the catalogue. It's associated with a brand registry account. The minute that you sell the business, you sell the trademark. The owner of the trademark is now the owner of the brand registry account. So you really don't need to sell the seller's account. The seller's account is not as important for a private label seller or for a brand owner as what it is on eBay, I guess.
eBay, it's a different structure as well. I mean, you're right. eBay doesn't have. I mean, eBay's building up a catalog, but they don't have a catalog in the way that Amazon does. So the way that the actual physical listing of products occurs on Amazon as opposed to eBay is quite different as well. So that makes total sense. Yeah.
Absolutely. So this was the slide that we had earlier, minus this last line, and the last line I added after our phone calls and emails, etc., trying to
it was a real life scenario. Real life.
I hadn't thought about putting that line in earlier, but when you're doing account or identity verification on Amazon, they're going to ask you for some documents, upload them, etc. The first thing that you need to do is open up the account, register, click on that Sell on Amazon button, and give them your email address, etc. But then all of those things you should never allow anybody to do for you. This has to be on your computer, and you need to be the one putting in your details, and you need to be the one uploading those documents, and you need to be the one understanding the terms and conditions. You're the one that's going to tick that button and say that I understand the terms and conditions, and nobody else. Afterwards, you're quite welcome to get instructions from a VA and add their email address in your user permissions, and they'll be able to do almost everything that you can except for changing your bank account and your structure, your business name, etc.
We do a lot of so I was just going to say we do a lot of integrations with marketplaces, not just Amazon, not just eBay, but several, and we always require the customer to actually, or the client to actually make up, do their own accounts. We obviously have to take passwords and things and look after them with great trust, but we won't do it for them. I have been in a weird situation before where I actually did create an account for somebody else. I had their full permission and they were asking me to do it. They were particularly busy, and I put, of course, their name in, their details and everything else. And next time I went to log into, I think it was eBay at that stage. And next time I went to log into eBay on my account, I wasn't blocked, but I was given the third degree of a whole stack of things that I had to go through as verification as well. So you're right, it's not just a person's name or address. The IP address is part of that. Payment methods, bank details, anything that can connect the account together can be an issue. So always make sure that you do it yourself, definitely.
Both of us, I'm guessing, deal with 100 accounts in the space of a month. It's just
easy.
The way that you do it and the way that you log in and make sure that one of your clients doing something wrong, or even not doing anything wrong, just opening a new account will suspend them. The rest of your clients don't end up getting suspended as well at that point in time. So when your account is suspended pending verification, follow the instructions. There's going to be an email. There's going to be in your Seller Central a little flag. You click on that. You look at the instructions, and you just supply them with the correct documents. Don't assume what those documents are. Make sure that you just follow the instructions word for word.
Yeah.
And they will be different instructions for you than what they were for me and what they are for somebody else, depending on your structure and a whole load of things. There are some common denominators, but they're not always the same documents that you need to supply them with.
Yeah.
If your verification does fail, look in that group and find the checklist and make sure that everything matches up the way we say. But then right at the end of that, there is a video that comes straight from Amazon Global. If you're trying to verify your USA account, they supply you with contact details on how to contact them if you've done all the right things, but still are suspended for whatever reason, and they'll work with you personally. Ensure that you only work with knowledgeable, experienced Amazon third-party agents or e-commerce agents or VAs or whatever it is that you're working with. Don't just get somebody off Fiverr. And the last one, never delete an Amazon account while it is suspended. So I've heard a lot of times in the groups, and I think that's exactly what the gentleman we spoke to earlier today did, that, my account's suspended, I can't get it back, I've given them everything that they want, they're not doing, I'm just going to delete the account and I'm going to start a new one.
Yeah.
That's
don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Because then you need to find that account, which doesn't exist anymore, and get it unsuspended before any other future account that you create is able to not be suspended. Because anything that's under your name now is associated with the suspended account. The fact that you deleted it does not mean that it's totally gone from Amazon's back end. What it does mean is that in that back end, there's a mark against your name that you have an account that you can't get back, but it's been suspended, and anything else that you do from there on any Amazon marketplace. So if you got suspended in the USA and then decided to open up an Amazon Australia account, you cannot do that. So that's in a nutshell what happened to that gentleman. I don't think we had any other slides. Apart from our details. That's in a nutshell.
That's right.
Actually, that was in a lot more detail than I managed.
Well, look, that was half an hour on that. We only had half an hour to go through 6 or 7 different things. So, we can't be too hard on ourselves. Look,
why did we decide that we wanted to talk
look,
about
these are things that need to be spoken about. At the end of the day, there's a mint to be made on Amazon. It's a big marketplace. What do they say, 20,000 sellers in Australia now, something like that. It's a huge number. And there are people that their entire livelihood depends on Amazon. There are people, particularly in the US, probably more so than here in Australia, who basically that's their full-time living, is just selling on Amazon. They don't have a website. They're not nowhere else. I remember doing a session over in the US talking about eBay and Amazon because it was strange. I mean, having come from eBay, over there, eBay is regarded in a very, very different way to how it is here in Australia. And it was just the automatic assumption, if you're selling online, you must be on Amazon. That was just a very automatic thing to think. So these are real things that happen. It's pretty hard if you get slapped down before you've even got out of the gate. So I hope that insight, which we shared earlier today, and now we've been able to go through in a bit more detail, is useful. I think, Callie, we've got a couple of other things that will come up over the next couple of weeks that we can share from the session today, which talk about things, hopefully the majority of you are actually up and running and have got through that part. Okay. And so, there's definitely a lot more things we can talk about.
Absolutely. And we'll do a few more of these as the weeks go on. All right. So let's see if we can try and understand some of these comments. Let me see what Mary's saying, because it pops up and down. I haven't looked at the checklist yet, Kelly, but how tricky is it to move from company to individual sole trader for USA and AU accounts? You don't want to be doing it while you're actually waiting for money to go through. So what I normally tell people is get paid and then do it the next day. And you don't want to be doing it alone. I normally recommend you pick up the phone and you talk to seller support, and you let them walk you through it and make sure that any notes that are to be made get made. There's a chance that your payments will be suspended for about 3 or 4 days. If anything does go wrong, it could take longer. So essentially, it's not a big deal at all, so long as the main person who owns the company is the same person, the one that signed up to begin with. It's really not a big deal. I haven't heard anybody really having huge issues, apart from maybe the 1 or 2 cases that took a little bit longer to be able to get paid. That's pretty much it. So it really is not a big deal. Great idea. Well, yes, absolutely. Pick up the phone. I don't know whether phone support is back on for everybody and at all hours, but yes, absolutely. Give that a shot. All right, so let's now talk about Anand. Let's go through those messages and see if I can understand what's going on. UK Amazon. Did he ask anything? It's more to do with a technical issue on their. I doubt it. I really doubt it. The jurisdiction does not allow me to change to Australian states.
So is he trying to register on the UK site? Because you wouldn't be able to do that if you're an Australian seller without going through the global team. Would that be right?
You can do that, absolutely. I mean, you can have what's called a global account. All right. Anand, if you can answer me, and there is a little bit of a delay here, so it might take a few minutes back and forth. If you can just answer me a couple of questions. Do you have a USA account, or do you have an Australian account? Is this your first Amazon account that you're trying to create? If it's your first account, the answer is different. If you've already got an account, again, the answer is different. So let's see if we get an answer for that. If Anand is still around. I think he actually asked a question in the group earlier today. So while we're waiting, do you want to say something? And
I don't know how to solve that one. But look, I'll say this, and
silence.
No, look, as I think you said before, I think this is I think this is the key. It's all very well getting advice from us or from a Facebook group or whatever. I think with a lot of these things, you really want to walk through that with Amazon support as best you can. At least let them have a look in their system. Oh, really? Not with this one. You think you figured it out?
Okay. Yeah, he's saying that he has a USA account. Right. And yes, absolutely screenshots, but I don't think I need them. Try somebody else. Can you cover that the silence while I look for something?
while you're looking,
let's find a link for him.
No, that's fine. Quite often the customer support folk there, again, remembering that quite often they are following scripts, or they're following their training. They're not necessarily. I mean, this is perhaps an analogy thing, but when you speak to Amazon's not actually a person. I know Jeff Bezos is pretty rich and pretty famous, but you're not actually speaking to him, and Amazon is not one person. So every time you speak to Amazon, you're actually speaking to a different person who probably doesn't know the background and has to go and read it, and sometimes they don't read it properly, and it's very hit and miss. So you get, look, a lot of them do their absolute best. I'm not trying to rip them down at all, but just understand that, and understand that sometimes you might need to try a couple of times to get the answer that you need. But the benefit of actually speaking to the customer support folk is that they can put notes on your account for the next person to actually pick up. And so if they actually say, yep, I'm going to do that, just make sure they say, look, can you put a note down on the account for next time? Sometimes using chat can help as well, because you can get a bit of a transcript or a record of that. And certainly, and I've seen this mistake happen several times. You get an email out from a marketplace, and then you go and try and email them back separately. Don't reply to the email, because that gives them all the information in there, the case history, the case numbers and the reference numbers to know what they're looking at. And quite often you'll find if you just email them separately and go, I'm answering you back, I'm sending the documents you asked me, they've got no idea where it's coming from. They might be able to go and look up your username or your email address and try and figure it out, but a lot of them won't even bother doing that. So, yeah, you want to sort of keep your wits about you.
That is gold advice, and it's gold for any marketplace. Yeah. I'm trying to get onto my computer, but because of what we're doing here, and because of the fact that it's that time of the night when everybody seems to be on
everybody's
Netflix.
At home. Everyone's watching Netflix. That's right.
It's not actually coming up. So I've managed to grab a link on my phone. I'm going to try and put it in the comments here. Yeah, no, Jeff Bezos is not going to answer this one, and that's no, there is an actual.
I wonder if he's watching Netflix.
Jeff at Amazon.com, and his team actually do resolve issues as a last resort. Awesome. And everybody on Facebook knows that, and the problem with that is they use it as a seller support issue. This is not what this is, and this is not what you need here. So if I can manage to get into these comments. Oh, shush. No, without me talking. No, I can't do it from here. I'm going to have to do it in a little. Adam, you need a global account. You need to create a brand new account. Just add, you don't need to create a brand new account. You need to log into your USA account through the global program and just add the UK to it. Now, I thought there was another message. No, there isn't. Let me get rid of this one. Now, once you do add a UK account to your USA account, you're still not going to be able to sell on it. You will need to upload your verification documents through the UK account on that same Seller Central platform. And on top of that, it will get suspended. But yep, I'll send you I'll send you the link, Anand, or I'll put it in the comments later on. Once you've done that, and once you've verified your account, you're still not going to be able to sell unless you get registered for VAT. Now, whether or not you want to continue on, that's I would be looking at your business as a whole before I told you to sell in the UK or not. I usually tell people the UK is country number 3 or 4. You actually want, if you're in Australia, to be selling in Australia and the USA before you go into the UK, Japan, or any other country. Only because of the legislation in those countries, and when it comes to sales taxes, et cetera, et cetera.
More complex,
whereas, in the USA, it's really easy. You send your product to FBA. Amazon adds the sales tax for practically all states. There's still a few states that haven't signed Amazon on. But yeah, you might want to have a chat to me before you continue on with that one.
Great.
That's pretty much it, I think. But yeah, I'll have to add it in a little. Just can't manage to do it with this internet. Yeah, so that's that's pretty much it. Have you got anything else to add? I don't think we've got any more comments.
I think that's good. Yeah, look, it's that's great. I hope that everyone that's joined in and found that useful. As I said before, when we presented a bit earlier today in the Amazon Digital Day, there's about 5 or 6 or 7 different topics that have been raised. Thanks, Callie, for raising those, because she raised them, not me. I'm not an expert in Amazon.
It's the people in the group that are raising.
I'm not an expert in Amazon. I've not sold on Amazon. I've certainly bought on Amazon. My perspective, just to kind of give some background to this, my perspective is very much multi-channel. My perspective very much is what's rational and what's human and what's real. And like yourself, Callie, I do tend to take a holistic view of a person's business rather than, dealing with 1 or 2 areas as such. Sometimes it's not worth the bother, and you're best off to just cut off a channel if it's not working and just get on with business wherever the money's being made. And I'm not saying people should leave Amazon for that, but it's just got to be in perspective.
No, absolutely not. So the reason why I say it is because a lot of the sellers in the Facebook groups, sellers with 1 or 2 products or 1 product that they're trying to test in a lot of marketplaces, etc. And I know that you're going to agree with me on this one, and you've got a lot more to say than what I do. But 1 product does not a business make.
No, not usually. No,
not long term anyway. I mean, we've seen websites be able to make quite a bit of money with just the 1 product for a short time, or
it's funny. I'll tell you a little story that happened to me when I first started selling products on a marketplace. It was eBay, probably about 10, 12 years ago. Or it might have been a bit more than that now, about 14 years ago. I was selling studio lighting equipment. And I had studio lights, like little flashlights and continuous lights and backdrops and stands and all sorts of things. And I found that the best way that they were selling was to put them together as a kit. I figured if somebody wanted to do some photography at home of their kids or their pet or whatever, they'd want to buy a couple of lights, a few stands, a backdrop, and they'd buy the whole kit for $500 or $1,000 or whatever it was. I'd never see them again. And that's what I thought my business was. And boy, was I wrong. My customers came back to me and said, "What else have you got?" And I was confused. I'm like, "What do you mean, what else have I got? You can see my eBay store. I got 25 products. That's it." By the way, why are you coming back? I had people actually asking me if I could get mirror balls for discos and ultraviolet lights, and I don't sell that stuff. And it took me a while before I finally realized that what was happening was trust had been formed because I had a good experience with whatever it was that they bought from me. And they wanted to deal with somebody that they trusted. And I can't overstate the importance of trust in a marketplace environment, or online generally, of course, but particularly in a marketplace environment. Build the trust with your customers. The customer has an issue, customer has something's not going right. Don't be defensive. Don't jump down their throat, because they're actually scared. They put the money in the machine and something went wrong that they weren't expecting. They're not having to go at you. They need reassurance, not defense. That's a whole other topic. But what the point I was going to make was, my customers taught me what my most profitable and what my fastest moving product was going to be. I hadn't even thought of it. And it was a light stand. Now, my logic said, why would you need a light stand if you don't get a light? What I hadn't thought of was people that already have lights that didn't have enough stands and wanted another stand, or wanted to have a couple spare. And they ended up being my biggest seller, just a light stand on its own. And there you go. So you can learn from your customers, but I do agree 1 product's not really a business. The problem is if you're competing, particularly in a marketplace environment where, lots of people can be selling the same product, whether it's a deliberate strategy from a big multi-million-dollar company that's prepared to make a loss on something as a loss leader to just wipe the floor with everybody else, or whether it's some idiot that doesn't know what they're doing with pricing and is just willing to lose money just because they think they've got to sell it, somebody's going to do it. And that's not a business. It's not wise to compete with that. So the same principle as investing, you often hear, don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's exactly the same with the business. By all means, start with the product, but start to build around that product very quickly. Other products that are related to it, and start to build a business, because that's how you build a brand. That's exactly right. And people engage with brands. People trust brands, not products. That's why people that like a particular brand of car or make of car go back and buy that car again and again. It's a totally different car. One car could be a lemon, one not, but it's the brand that they trust. So yeah, I'm a big believer in brand.
Absolutely. And one product can't pay your overheads as well.
Not usually.
Unless it's very, 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 very rare, and you've got to put so much money into something like that just to get
unless it's a fidget spinner right at the start of the craze and you happen to sell them all, then go your merry way. But these things come along not very often, and of course you and everybody else has seen the same trends. Remember those hoverboards that were really popular all of a sudden, and everyone tried to bring it in, and then suddenly the airlines couldn't carry them because the country regulations changed, and your business is gone, evaporated in smoke overnight. So
actually, I know a couple of people that were involved in those back in the day, and it's not a fun story when that kind of thing. So you don't want to you want to minimize that risk, and that's exactly what I'm referring to here. If Anand is one of those sellers that's only got like one or two products, I would absolutely
think a little bigger.
Be recommending Australia and the USA initially. Doesn't cost that much to be in those two countries only. As soon as you go into the UK, that having the admin costs of having to report and pay and what have you, that it's a big thing. You don't want to be doing it with your first couple of products. And we did want to touch on admin costs and accounting costs and sales taxes and all that.
It's a business. Yeah, it's a business.
And have an accountant and have a lawyer and all of that kind of stuff. But
that's all right. We'll do that here over the next few weeks. So go grab your friends and everybody else and come back and share it. Look, it's and Kelly and I were talking about this a bit earlier today after we finished our session. It's just like, gosh, we barely got it in. We didn't really quite get through everything. Look, a marketplace is a big beast. And perhaps we could say that some of these risks and some of these issues that we get caught up in is a bit like getting your finger caught in the machine. It's a little bit like that. The machine didn't mean it, but it's probably going to hurt. It's not personal, as Kelly said before, but understanding the sort of risk that you can be up against really helps you to be prepared. Treat it as a business, definitely, but also understand that the Amazon's not out to get you. But they need things done in a certain way because they're dealing with so many millions of people and millions of products and millions of customers all the time. They can't afford to just look at it personally. Yeah. So they've got to
if you type into Google Amazon lawsuit.
There's a few of them. I actually never knew that Amazon lawyer was actually a job. It was a career until I met CJ over in Las Vegas. There you go. So
it absolutely is.
It's a full-time career. Yeah. Amazing.
It's a full-time job, not just for him, but for a lot of people under him as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
So we've had fun. We're going to have a lot more fun in Queensland in September.
Can't wait. Yep.
Go to retailglobal.com.au and grab your tickets if you don't already have them.
Yep. You've got a discount code for that, Kelly?
There was one, I didn't catch it.
I've got one that I can share.
While I was in the you got one?
I've got one that I can share. I don't get anything for this, by the way, but because I'm on the advisory board, we actually do get a discount code. So it's Zealous 100. Zealous is the name of my business, so ZELLIS 100. And you get $100 off if you go and use that. But there's a few others floating around the place. So yeah, see if you can find yours, Kelly, and share it with the group.
I've asked for Kelly 100, but I don't know.
Oh, have you?
Yet.
There can't be another Kelly.
I actually asked for Kelly 50, but now I want Kelly 100.
No, you should get Kelly 100, absolutely.
So Zealous 100. It's in the comments. That's $100 off your ticket.
Yeah.
It is worth every cent, even if you had to pay double what it is. So if you get $100 off, take advantage of it and be
That'll
there.
help. Yeah, look, it's the one conference. I was just going to say it's the one conference, the one event each year that I would say is where the rubber hits the road. I've used that expression before about this conference, but I really mean it. The thing that's different, I've been to a number of different conferences in the e-commerce space and other industries, and there's a lot of chest beating going on. A lot of people get up on the stage and say, we spent $15 million doing, and off they go. And you're like, oh, you just go to sleep. That's great. That's not what a conference is for. You want to go there to actually learn something real and not just theory. You don't want to get some, young pimply face keep getting up and talking about the great philosophy of the universe, because that's not real.
Most of the conferences these people go to, they've got a little table on the side taking registration with thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
that's not what it's about.
No, and that's not what you want. You want to hear from the Kogans and the Paul Greenbergs and the Gabby Leibovitzes of the world that have actually built massive empires, starting in their garage as a lowly little marketplace seller selling one or two products. You want to hear their story, because you don't have to break into the millions and millions. Sure, it's everyone's dream, but it's about the process. It's about setting goals that are realistic. It's about surrounding yourself with people that can actually give you that support and give you that information and just go on for it. And I just find that conference is great, because you hear those people's stories. They're very generous with their time, and they're very open and transparent about the fact that they made mistakes, made errors, they bumbled their way along. I remember Paul Greenberg was asked once, what do you think that's, what's the future of e-commerce? Like, this was probably about 5 years ago. And he said, I wouldn't have the foggiest. Oh, how am I supposed to know that? It's changing so fast. Nobody knows what's coming. And it's kind of a little bit like that today. I think there's a bit more clarity. I think there's enough groundswell behind what e-commerce is and what marketplaces are these days that people kind of know what to get. But we deal in the space with web design, and particularly e-commerce web design. And I'm still, I have to say, shocked at how many websites I come across where they look pretty, got all the bells and whistles, they look wonderful, but they just don't work because the customer can't find what they're looking for. It's too hard, it's too slow, and yeah. So I think there's going to be a massive improvement in that area over time. So what's happening now is that up until, maybe the past 10 years or so, probably up until about 3 or 4 years ago, the big retailers weren't paying attention to e-commerce. They just weren't. All the little guys like you and I were, and so we were able to get away with murder, basically, and make money. That's stopped now because the big guys are coming in, not just spending little bits of money, but big bits of money, not afraid to make a loss. I mean, Bunnings now launching their own marketplace. Bunnings, massive company owned by Wesfarmers. They're also the ones that own Catch.
Yes.
There's lots of money being spent. And so we can't, as individual sellers, whether we're a solo company or a small family company or even just a small group of friends trying to run a business, we can't pretend that we're in that small space anywhere. We're actually competing with the mainstream retailers for the same customers. And if you've got products that are sold by those big retailers, you've got to be thinking that way to be able to have the thought process going through your head to work out what you can do that's different, what's unique. How can you build a brand that's different and unique for that? How on earth did Catch start? How on earth did Kogan start? This guy, Kogan, started selling a couple of TVs from a shipping container that he collected all the money before he'd even got him into the country. And you go, well, hang on, that's a bit, isn't that illegal? No, it's not illegal. It was smart. He had to go and borrow credit cards and borrow from friends and all sorts of things. He was resourceful. He had a problem in front of him, and he figured out a way to solve it. And look at him now. The share price has gone up, and they're doing amazing things. We may not all have that kind of big dream, but the point is, in e-commerce, if you're not moving forwards, you are moving backwards. You ever been to the airport and been on one of those travelators?
Yes.
They always fascinate me, those things. I'll tell you about the story about them another day. But you imagine that you're standing still on one of those things, and you're standing the wrong way, and you're actually going backwards. In order to just keep up, you need to actually walk. If you want to get ahead, you've actually got to run. Yes. That's what e-commerce is like. That's how fast it's moving. So It's no good to just get your product or 2 or 10 or 20, stick it on Amazon, get it up to a point where it's selling, and then go, well, that's great, I've got it made, I can just let it work now. It'll stop working after a few weeks or a few months or a few years, and it will change, and it's going to continue to change. So you've got to keep your wits about you with this sort of stuff.
Absolutely, and it's even more like that when you're on Amazon, and a business has got a lot of expenses, so you just can't stop on the one on the one thing, one product, the one marketplace, the one anything.
Definitely.
I think I think we're ready to go. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you soon. I will be posting more details for our next ones of these, and as soon as we've got more details with the Retail Global next digital day, that will be going up too. Have a good night. Have a good night,
Thanks,
Tim.
Kelly.
Bye-bye.
See you, everyone. Bye.